Hey guys, welcome back to Fort Tarkin Gaming. I just finished Days Gone and I've got a review here for you, but today we're going to do something a little different. I brought my wife on
Hey guys!
and she's going to ask me some questions about Days Gone. She has watched a good chunk of it with me, but she hasn't watched all of it. So she came up with some questions and she's going to ask me, and so this is the review.
So, first off, let's start off with how did you like the game?
I like the game. It was definitely something I've wanted for a long time as an open world zombie game, and I used to play State of Decay for that reason. That was a very unpolished game, and Days Gone is also an unpolished game, but it was more polished and I liked it more.
Okay. What kind of game is Days Gone?
So Days Gone is an open world zombie game. So yeah, like I said, it's sort of like State of Decay. It's in third person. You got third person shooting. You have some survival mechanics as well. You have to take care of your bike. It's all pretty simple, but it's a AAA open world zombie game.
Okay. So you spent a lot of time playing this game. Could you play it any quicker than what you did?
Yeah, I probably put about 40 hours into the game, and holy crap, that was a long time. I feel like the game was kind of trying to be like Red Dead Redemption 2 in terms of its story. So it was a long game. But yeah, you could probably maybe do it faster if you didn't do any sort of side content, but I was trying to look at everything the game had to offer. But and I didn't stop for everything, and especially near the end I definitely focused just on the story, but yeah, it was a long game.
Why did you just focus on the story near the end? Was it a really good ending or
So no, the story I just was trying to get this review done, honestly. But the story is not is not good. Like I don't care about any of these characters whatsoever. They are very generic, boring, or just poorly written. It's just yeah, the story is not good at all.
then let's talk about the gameplay. Do you feel like the gameplay made up for what it lacked in the story?
I do for the most part. Um, yeah, it was really fun. Like there was hordes. The hordes were my favorite part. And but you didn't really see that till the end of the game. There were, and for the, like at least the first half, if not three-quarters of the game, is mostly like stealth mechanics because you weren't powerful enough to take on a horde. If you were going to take on a horde, you'd better hide and just throw bombs at them. Is basically the only thing. But yeah, what was the question again? I kind of got lost in my thoughts here.
If the gameplay made up for what it lacked in the story.
Oh, yeah, I'd say it's a fun game. It definitely needs more polish, like the frame rate tanked all the time. And but I mean, if you're looking for an open world zombie game, which I am, but I know a lot of people are sick of zombie games, but I'm definitely not one of those people. But yeah, I really like Days Gone just in terms of gameplay. I just wish it was more polished and actually had a story that I cared about.
Okay. Um, so you mentioned about like fighting hordes when you were talking about the gameplay. Did the game kind of help you learn how to fight the hordes, or was it a lot of trial and error?
So you would run into some hordes. Like there was a horde that I ran into early on in the game, and yeah, I just did it stealthily and just throw bombs at them because there was no way I didn't have enough ammo or guns to powerful enough guns to take on a horde. But really, like it was almost like 80% of the way through the game. There was a tutorial kind of how to take on hordes, or at least a mission, a story mission where you took on a horde, and they gave you some souped up Molotovs, so it'd be easier to take it on. they're very difficult to take on even when you are more powerful. You have to have a ton of ammo, and yeah, if you can plan it out, the better, or just, take on a couple, basically aggro them, pull them out, and then shoot a couple. Then the rest will kind of drift away. Then you can go and take them on again once you have your feet underneath you.
I remember watching you playing, and we ran into a horde while you were playing. Is there anything on the map that indicates that a horde was there that could have prevented you from running into them unprepared?
So at the beginning of the game, no, there wasn't. But now that I've completed the game, yeah, there's a little icon for each of the hordes that are left. So yeah, you could. I mean, yeah. So it's kind of weird. I I almost wish they just started out with hordes, but they didn't.
And you said your favorite part about the game was the hordes. Why is that your favorite part?
Well, ever since the E3 demo, I saw it and it looked really awesome. And when you play it, it is freaking awesome. And it's just like there's so many. It looks like water almost, and they're just coming over every direction. And the music gets like super intense, and you're screaming your head off as you try to get through and not die. But yeah, it's at its best when there's a bunch of zombies on screen. In fact, sometimes the game runs smoother with a bunch of zombies on the screen.
So, what is your least favorite part of the game?
Story by far. The story was it's just I don't know what Ben Studios did. I like sometimes there would be moments where like they would have two cutscenes in a row that accomplish the same goal. Like for example, just I don't want to do spoilers or anything, but just there's a generic cutscene here where it's like, "Oh, I thought you were dead," and he's like, "Nope, I wasn't." And then next cutscene, "Oh, I thought you were dead." "Nope, I'm still here." It's like I don't know why that even happened. And then there was also like cutscenes where it's just like, where like I feel like I'm just missed something. Like it's like I skipped a couple cutscenes because just like we're doing X, Y, and Z, and now we're doing like A, B, and C. It's just like there was
Didn't
no
flow very well.
yeah, didn't flow very well. And then yeah, none of the character interactions were written well. Like I didn't care if anybody died or lived, and like they try to have these like memorable moments, and everything was just like overly cheesy and just melodramatic, and just yeah, it just didn't work for me.
Okay, so story not that great, but the gameplay, especially with the hordes, is a lot better than what the story was for you.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's talk about the zombies. And I remember watching you a little bit, and I saw that there were different types of zombies. Could you tell me about the different types of zombies and what challenges they brought into the game?
Yeah, so they did have quite a few different zombies. There were newts, which were like infected kids. They were fast and they climb up on things and try to get around you. For the most part, they'd leave you alone unless you were vulnerable, then they would try to attack you. So those were the newts. And then there was the swarmers and bleachers, which were basically the same thing. The bleachers were they were just white and they had slightly more health than the swarmers. Those were what you would find in hordes. There'd just be tons of them. Then there was the breaker, which was just a larger version, like basically some guy on steroids, basically who got infected is basically what it is, and they just take more health and hit harder. Then there was the screamers, and they would scream and they would knock you out, kind of, and the screen would get all fuzzy, and you get hit by their scream, and then you'd get at least 5 or 6 swarmers on top of you after they screamed. That was their gimmick. And then near the very end of the game, they introduced the last one called Reachers, and they were just it's basically if you took a swarmer and made it faster and hit harder and just took way more health. So, and honestly, I didn't really care for any of the different types except for the swarmers and bleachers. I felt like, I just wanted to fight hordes. I didn't really fight anything else. Well, and there was also infected animals. There was bears and wolves and crows. Crows were annoying as heck. You know, yeah, the bears were basically a mini boss fight, and the wolves were also really annoying. Like you'd just be riding along on your motorcycle, then all of a sudden they just take you out. Like they just knock you off your motorcycle. And yeah, well, those were basically all the zombie types.
Sounds like it was a lot of varieties in there. And so the hordes were basically made up of the bleachers and the swarmers. You said there would never be any of like the newts or
Any of the other types?
yeah.
Yeah. So there wasn't any of the other types that I saw, at least in the swarms that I was dealing with.
Okay. Were there any other elements added into the game that added to the challenge?
Mm, well, I mean, you had, obviously your stamina and your health to worry about, your ammo, and then, yeah, you'd have to worry about your bike. The bike was a big part of your game. You couldn't fast travel without your bike having enough gas, or if it wasn't repaired, you have to go find some scrap to repair your bike. And yeah, like I said, the gas would run out, and you'd have to go find like a gas can somewhere, or go to a gas station and fill up on gas. And, you could upgrade your bike and make it more durable, increase the gas tank size so that you could like fast travel to further places. And there were these so the zombies, they had these nests that you'd have to go and clear out. You'd use Molotovs to burn their nests out, and if they're like, let's just say you wanted to travel from point A to point B, and there was a zone of like an infected area where there was a bunch of nests, you couldn't fast travel until you cleared out that. So that actually was kind of interesting and fun. Like you had to go and clear all that out. So I enjoyed that part of the game as well.
Awesome. Did you ever have to worry about the weather? Like, would you get too cold or too hot?
No, there's nothing like that.
So it wasn't as intense as like Red Dead Redemption 2 in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, there might have been, but if there was, I didn't notice it.
Okay. And then lastly, let's talk about like the graphics and the sound. So, did you feel like the graphics were amazing? Like in terms of, it's an open world game like Red Dead Redemption 2. Would you feel like do you feel like it was done very well where it was just a beautiful game all around?
Yeah, it was a pretty game. I thought it's definitely not the best game. It's not the best looking game I've ever seen, but it's a good looking game, and there wasn't really pop-ins. I mean, there was a cutscene or two that I'd see where like, I mean, there was a lot of characters with tattoos, and their tattoos just wouldn't load in before the cutscene started, so you just see this blurry mess on their face. And I mean, there's those things, but yeah, it was a good looking game.
Awesome. And then lastly, the sound. Did you feel like the soundtrack went along with the game really well? Or did you feel like the soundtrack is very noticeable?
So I did like the soundtrack, although so like when you're fighting hordes and zombies or whatever, the music would get super intense, and it was like perfect for that kind of stuff. I could get like way too intense sometimes. You're just like, holy fudge, calm down. This is yeah, but it was fun. But and then they'd have to try to have these like dramatic moments in the story, and it was just like the music would. I mean, the music was good. It just was like it didn't like work well with the story. So you just yeah, it just fell flat on its face basically. Like you'd have this big moment. They tried to build up this big moment, but it was just like I didn't care, and it was just overly cheesy, and it just didn't work. And like there would be random events where you could save a survivor, and every time it would play this like dramatic, I think basically the theme song of the game, and it just Just like really, just save some. I don't know. It was weird. Yeah. So, but all the screams of the zombies, like you'd be in a camp and you could just hear the freakers screaming out in the distance, and yeah, I mean, it was creepy. Had good atmosphere basically.
Awesome. Those are pretty much all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else you'd like to add, and or tell me about this game?
Um, Not really. I would just say that if you want to buy this game, if you're looking for an open world zombie game, this is probably the best one that I can think of besides maybe, that last gen Red Dead Undead Nightmare, if you want to buy that expansion for Red Dead. But um yeah, if you're sick of zombie games, I wouldn't get this. And it's definitely not a polished game, so you'd have to really want to play a zombie game in order to buy this. Because the story is not great, the gameplay's fun, and yeah, it doesn't run very well. But I enjoyed my time with it. But I think that's a very specific niche, basically. Like it's gonna appeal to a very specific group of people. So yeah, if you want a zombie game, this is a good one.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Yep. So that's the Days Gone review. And remember, all is as the Force wills it.